In this video, traders, we're going to look at how we can draw our trend lines and channels, the best practices for doing that using MT4. Stay tuned. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining me. All right, so MT4, super popular platform. It's the platform that is used by our channel sponsor and this video sponsor, but we know that MT4, super popular, loads of functionality with it. But one thing is when we're drawing our trend lines and our channels, we can do things that just really change the nature of what we're seeing. And, you know, a few different tweaks and adjustments that I like to use, and maybe you can take one or two ideas from this, help you get a bit more clarity in framing the trade, waiting for the right setup, and not making those charts too cluttered. So let's hit the screens now and check out MT4. Hey guys, so I'm in MT4, hint in the description below. Forex, indices, commodities, stocks, ETFs, and even crypto. They use MT4, MT5, different account types as well, depending on how active you are, sort of volume you're trading, when you're trading. So you can go and check out those. Like I said, I'll link in the description below. But what I want to do now is sort of talk a little bit about drawing trend lines and channels. Now, we know that ultimately the reason we're kind of drawing trend lines and channels, I'm just drawing this on now, this is not MT4, I'm going to go in a moment and put use the actual tools that we get with the platform. But the reason we're drawing these is that we can hopefully kind of frame the market like that, and we can either look to initiate shorts at the top of channels or longs at the bottom of the channel. We're slightly better. We've got an uptrending channel, then we're almost most of the time better aligning ourselves with the trend and then waiting for that lower channel to be tested rather than trying to be too clever with this side. But that's by the by. The other thing we like to do with channels as well is looking for the break of a channel or a pullback and buy, that kind of thing. So they can be very useful. They're good to kind of frame the trade. They're good to get a feel for what's going on as well. They're good to keep you out of trouble. Loads of reasons why we should be using trend lines and channels. So got a couple of options here. MT4, trend line, or we can do a channel. So trend line, we're going into just the toolbar here, and very simply we're just holding and clicking. But what I wanted to mention about drawing these trend lines, guys, is very similar to support and resistance. They should jump out at you. And I've got here, this is a gold hourly chart, 1 hour chart, and immediately you can kind of see some patterns here, right? You don't need to be over analyzing it, and I'm very much a proponent of less is more with all things in trading. Indicators, channels, support and resistance lines, and channels and trend lines are no different. So the first thing that stands out is, okay, we've got a little kind of trend line here, and that might not be enough for people, but that's at least giving us some structure. We're at least saying, okay, we've been in this little bit of range here, now we've started to break out, now we've accelerated a little bit more with the trend line, and we can start to kind of frame things a little bit out and go, okay, well, here we were at a kind of narrow trend, now we've broken out, and maybe we're now in a broad trend. We start drawing things like this. Now we'll look at some rules in a moment for drawing on the highs and lows, but what I want to kind of show you guys as well is how we can draw these using the channel tool. So we've got the channel here, and we can do the same kind of thing with our trend line, and it gives us a channel on our MT4. We can double click it, and then we can drag this to the length we want. So let's say we wanted to do that, and let's say we want to say, okay, well, let's look at the broad channel. Let's look at the very wide range channel, so we know where we are. Then we can even, if we want to, start entering sub channels. So we can go, right, well, here we've got this little miniature channel here. How do we want to frame that? Well, actually, you know what, I want to kind of narrow that off a little bit, because that lines up then with the lows of here and the highs of here, and maybe I want to adjust this a little bit, and we want to make sure we're in the middle portion here, guys, and then we do the main one, and then we do the second one after, so looking like that. So now we can get a bit of structure. We're like, okay, what's the lower channel, the middle channel, the upper channel? So for example, we may now want to say, and again, this may be too cluttered, and it probably is. My instinct go, oh, this is a little bit cluttered here. But what you can do is draw stuff on to frame the trade, your idea, etc., and then start to remove things. So you can start to delete them off, maybe just keep your trend line on there and forget the channels. But what I wanted to point out of this, guys, is that you start to say, okay, well, if we're in this upper channel here, then hey, maybe it's come a bit too far to start buying. Maybe you're pushing your luck a little bit to be buying in the upper channel, considering going from the lower channel, sat in the middle, and then push up. Now, It could still break out. Of course it could. Market can still break higher, but maybe it just keeps you out of trouble. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm happy to buy my middle channel or my lower channel. If I fancying a short position, let's say you're going back and you've got some resistance way back previously and you're sitting here, then maybe again you want to wait until your upper channel to roll over. So it helps you frame things a little bit better, and there's nothing wrong as well with trading breakouts from this channel, then drawing your second channel in and using that, and then trading from that. But obviously bearing in mind, markets, even though they trend, generally will rotate as well. So even though we've gone a really big move here on gold, it's still been rotating along the way. Look at these rotations, big drive, consolidation. Very rarely do markets go in a straight line, and that's a bit of a mess. So all we want to do, guys, I want to delete off as many things as we can, keep things clean, and just keep things broad. So for me, I would have a trend line here. I may well also have a trend line here, and look at that. Now, talking about highs and lows where we draw our trend lines, there's no right or wrong, just as I think that's the same with anything in trading, guys. There's no real right or wrong. Some people really say that you have to draw, right on the high, so very, very defined high, and it has to be there. But the trouble I have with that is that it then sends the trend line crazy when you go further out. So if you start to draw it from high to high, let's say we draw it from here to here, the angle, the kind of law of angles and distances mean that this is now way out. Whereas if you're just using a sort of as a best fit, i.e. where does it fit the most on this, or where exactly can I draw this, that I think the angle's more important than the touches to me. So in other words, rather than looking at each individual touch, because if you think about this is an hourly chart. All it takes is for just 15 minutes of a little bit of people hitting the bid, on the gold exchange, and these CFDs will be much lower, and it will ruin the whole trend. I think that's too tight. I think the best way to do it from a personal perspective is you just put a best fit in. So clusters of highs or lows like we see here, and then extrapolate that out as you wish. So rather than being very, very accurate and putting it exactly on the low and the high and then wondering where it goes, I think a broad best fit is fine. When you're drawing this kind of thing and you're extrapolating it, be careful. This happens to, I'm not a big proponent of extrapolating stuff way out. I'm more comfortable saying, okay, this was the trend line, and then we've broken out, and then maybe we draw another fresh trend line here, rather than kind of extrapolating trends from this area. So just for clarity, let's just draw this on. So this trend line here, fine. This trend line here, or this track channel here, fine. Here, rather than extrapolating what happened here right the way over to here. I'm not a big fan of that, but if you want to frame your trade and get some feel for what's going on, then fine. Like I say, there's no right or wrong way. But the main takeaways, guys, are A, draw your channels in, use them to align yourself with the trend, use them to align yourself with the rotations of the market. Easy to draw on MT4 with the trend line tool and the channel tool. Very simple, as you can see, very simple to move around, very simple to adjust and tweak and adapt to kind of suit your trading. And again, any time frame, we happen to have H1 here, but if we were kind of going back and saying, let's look at the weekly chart on yen, for example. I've already got one here. So weekly chart, a 1 week chart on USD JPY. Again, we're covering some of the highs. We're not being very, very specific, but we're being broad, and we're saying, okay, market's now broken out above this kind of downtrend, almost a wedge type pattern, because we could draw another channel, another trend line in here, couldn't we? Almost. Again, this is where it gets interesting, because some people say it should be here, some people say it should be here. There's no right or wrong. We know that the shape is broadly going to be the same, whether we had that thing there or whether we had this thing here. Now, maybe it still hasn't come to a point if you're being very precise with it, but ultimately it doesn't matter for what we're looking at, which is a break to the upside in this example. But like I said, it depends on the market you're trading, depends on the time frame, all those other good things. All right, guys, that was MT4. Going to have a look through the website, 3 different account types, like I say, to see, well, you choose the one that's right for you. They're interesting, different account types, depending on how you trade, what you trade, the volume you trade, and when you trade. So go and check them out. There's a link in the description below. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.